Hi, I'm Aaron, commercial insurance specialist, coming to you from our office at Bellwether Insurance. Today's subject is cybersecurity, and over the next 20 or 30 minutes, we're going to take a real high altitude but detailed look at cybersecurity and how it relates to you and your business, and what me and Nate are seeing in the business as well. So I'm joined by my good friend Nate today. Nate is the one of the owners of Telenamics, and Green Line Solutions. Nate, what do you do for our viewers?
So on the Telenamics side, we offer a business class phone system that's like unified communications for your business. And on the Green Line side, we're a managed service provider and IT consulting for small to medium business. So we're serving anywhere from 5 employees, say, to upwards of 600 with a couple customers.
So companies big enough to need IT, but too small to have like their own full-fledged IT staff.
Yeah, it can really be both.
Okay, cool.
So
cool. So I'm going to start. Here's a couple of alarming facts. 1 out of every 100 emails is a phishing attack. From the first half of 2019 to the first half of 2020, cyber ransoms increased by 200%. And right now, every 14 seconds, someone gets a ransomware attack. Now, I can tell you what I see, Nate. People still look at cyber liability insurance. Quite honestly, it's like they're living in 2007. They think, it's just for losing customer data. That's all it does, and I don't need it. What do you see? What do you see out in the field as far as what companies are doing, or what they have done, or are they up to speed?
I think it goes across the board. Even with the smaller, or mostly with the smaller businesses, you'll see they're really out of touch with security. And that does stretch into larger businesses. In fact, one of the larger companies we work with had a breach on one of their newly onboarded locations. It was a new acquisition very recently. So it was almost like too fast for them to have even done anything about it. So it caught them off guard a little bit. But I would say all organizations that we've worked with need to pay more attention to cybersecurity, one way or another.
It's been something that's been accelerating, blindingly fast for the last 10 years. And 2020, it seems like the whole world went off the cliff. Everybody started working from home. It became rich hunting grounds, basically, for, cyber criminals to attack weak systems. So, part of being a good risk manager is getting rid of most of the risk before you have to finance the risk to someone else. So let's say I'm a small company, and I got better things to do than worry about my internet security, worry about if I have the latest and greatest. When you go to a company, what are you looking at? How do you get started with when you go into a company? What do you start with, and then what do you start looking at hardest?
Originally, you're going to look at what their biggest exposure points are. And anymore, email, like you had brought up already, is one of the highest exposure points, especially since COVID. Everybody's gone work from home. A lot of companies went into platforms like Office 365 as quickly as they could and didn't put a lot of thought into security or how to train their users around it. So we've seen a lot of breaches through Office 365, and this is not us specifically, this is just industry-wide, where Office 365 has grown up so fast and given businesses so much capability to do things, but not a lot of tools to monitor and understand what's going on with the platform. You have to have an expert to really understand what's going on within 365.
So are you looking at both company processes and their hardware and their software?
I think you have to look at everything.
Okay.
You have to look at what their processes are and how they handle data. You have to look at firewalls to see what they're doing. Are they exposing their systems directly to the internet? And you have to look at their communications platforms and what holes that may be leaving. Okay. There's a bunch of ways that breaches can happen. It can phishing can happen in a variety of ways. It could be originating through a phone call. You have a technician, supposed, technician calling to fix your computer, and that end user works with them to expose their PC and ultimately the network to a breach. You have stuff like email scams that will get users to enter their credentials and log into give these logins to the attackers. And then you have just, the more basic stuff that everybody's been used to, which is PC viruses and stuff like that. But even PC viruses, what traditionally we were working with, say, 10 years ago, are gone. They all lead to CryptoLocker, it seems like, anymore.
And CryptoLocker, again, is where someone takes your system hostage and then basically locks it down and says, hey, we want 500,000 in cryptocurrency in order to unlock your system and
Right.
give you back access to your data.
And those numbers are going up.
That's wonderful news.
Years ago, I'd say this was the first time we had a client that had it happen with. They had refused to manage antivirus. They had refused to have us manage backups. And the owner actually had the backup on his own desktop computer. So it backed up the network shares every night.
Wow.
Right? And that was all they had, nothing offsite. One of their accounting PCs got infected, and it encrypted all of their data, their accounting database, and the backups. So they had no choice to do other than to pay the ransom. So we did facilitate that, and I think it was about $7,000. And this was for I think they were about an $8 million a year company.
Okay.
So, they had
$8 million in revenue.
Yeah, decent
Okay.
enough size that it could
Now,
have
did
been
they pay
more
that out of
substantial.
pocket?
They did, yeah,
So they didn't have cyber insurance.
right.
Okay.
So we purchased the Bitcoin on their behalf and
Oh, okay.
went through the unlocking process, obviously with no guarantees.
Right.
So,
No.
In fact, we had another client, kind of the same situation, recurring theme here. People decide to manage things themselves. They got hit, and they actually had two PCs hit in the same night. So they paid the ransom, and it turned out the PC they paid the ransom on unencrypted, already encrypted files. So then they were looking at paying the ransom again, because it was actually two different CryptoLocker variants. It wasn't even the same people.
Wow.
So I don't know exactly how that worked out, but getting hit, basically struck by lightning twice there. And they ended up just going back and losing a few days of work on backups. But,
Okay.
there's
still a cost associated with that.
Right. They paid, I don't recall the amount, probably $5,000-$10,000 and got nothing out of it.
And if I can interject, that's where there's a huge disconnect between what cyber liability insurance is or was and what it is today. The rookies pulled out of the business. It's too risky. We're seeing very large ransoms. We're seeing more sophisticated attacks. And the cyber suite that you said that company got hit for $7,000. That's about, a good mid-sized company and, with a few million in revenue, that's about what they're going to be paying for cybersecurity suite. And they do so much more than just protect customer data. There's what we call business income. So they help cover your loss of business while everything's being restored. They supply forensics teams to see what happened, how it happened, why it happened. They have a crypto team. If they have to pay a ransom, they have a special team of guys to do that. They have a restoration team. A lot of these bigger cyber companies that specialize in cyber, really it's kind of a 360 degree type of coverage. Because I don't care who you are. This office can burn down. I could be working from home in the time it takes me to warm up my truck and go home and turn on my office computer. If you cut out the backbone of this business, which is my network services, I'm dead.
Right.
I'm dead in the water until it's fixed.
And that's where business interruption is really important.
Yeah,
especially, people think of a breach and, I have to pay the ransom. Well, that's kind of could end up being minimal, just depending on the size of the company. Because if servers are encrypted, they've obviously been compromised.
Sure.
Same for workstations. So you could be looking at days, maybe weeks of rebuild, depending on the size of your organization, because a lot of the time, these hackers, if you want to call them that, are getting into systems and they're sitting there for weeks or months before they even do anything. So your data is exposed to them, and then it's held ransom on top of it, and you can't just go to your backup 2 weeks ago and reload that data, because as soon as you do, it's going to get locked again by CryptoLocker.
Now, there's some special precautions you put in place. I know we were talking about it before, where you actually air gap the backups so that it helps prevent a situation like that.
It keeps them from coming in and
Destroying the whole thing.
destroying your backups, which
Okay.
does happen frequently. So some software suites, you are more disconnected from your backup than others, especially the offsite products.
Gotcha.
Give that gap where the PCs backing up can't get in and delete or change backups. But even in that case, there still may be viruses embedded in the backup. So if you get in a situation where your servers are affected, you may have to rebuild from the ground up, clean the data or make sure that it's clean, and then put it on basically new servers. So you're talking about almost a full rebuild of your IT infrastructure,
Now,
and then bring your data back into it.
there is a coverage in cyber liability insurance called bricking, where they'll actually restore hardware if need be, servers if you have on-site servers, if you're not just buying rack space or whatever. But again, and everybody thinks, cyber liability is this ancillary thing. I don't really have to worry about it. It's not me. We already see, criminals aren't stupid. They're going to go after the easy targets.
Right.
They're going to go after the business that's got enough revenue to matter, but probably doesn't have great security in place.
Yeah. Well, and things have changed. You go back, look 15 years ago, companies would do virus cleanups and okay, you're good. We ran these 2 utilities, they came back clean. If you don't notice anything, you're fine. Well, that's not how it is anymore.
No.
At least not for us.
No, it's got to be a living thing, right?
Yeah, if you get a virus on your computer's getting wiped, and we're redeploying it because you don't know how
What's hiding.
sophisticated what's hiding in it, what they're retrieving, and ultimately, it's the safety of the business. It's worth the time because you don't know how much bigger that exposure is going to get.
It's absolutely worth the time, and again, revisiting the cyber insurers out there. We work with the brokers with like 50 different companies. They're no longer you just pay this money and you have this insurance policy.
Right.
They're actually teaming up with companies and showing them best practices. Based on what the insurance companies see. They know how they get hit. It's their wallet, and they're going to come and tell you, hey, that process probably needs to be changed, or or maybe you want to consider this different antivirus software. And
Right.
Another coverage that is available in cyber liability is reputation restoration. I mean, we would be ruined if people
Right.
found out we got hacked and all our customer data went flying out into cyberspace. That does a lot of damage to a business's reputation.
Absolutely, and I think that's what you see a lot in email breaches, where somebody gets into an email account, and it doesn't necessarily matter what the platform is. They figure out pretty easily through public records what platform you're on, and then they customize the phishing messages to what you're on.
Some of those messages are pretty tricky.
Yeah,
a lot of them,
look
it's
pretty
real
legit.
obvious, but some of them look pretty, yeah.
So
I think I just got a call yesterday saying, hey, congratulations on your new iPhone that you just ordered off Amazon. I'm like, I didn't order an iPhone. Press 1. And I'm like, no. So,
yeah, so I think that's important because people hand over their credentials, and it's the same thing. They log into the email account. Often they set forwarding rules where they're forwarding a copy of your email off to another mailbox, so they don't have to be actively logging in and out. And they'll sit there for a while, and say 2-3 weeks later, they can go back. You probably haven't changed your password, right? How often do you change your email password? Not too frequently, I would guess.
No, they,
A lot of people don't have multi-factor authentication.
It's another easy fix, right?
Right.
Does that
Right.
cost anything? No.
No, a lot of people just don't set it up,
Yeah.
but it's available to them. So anyways, they get all that data. They find, especially depending on the sector of business you're in, anything to do with funds transfers, whatever you send your customers for payment directions and stuff like that. And they'll send out fake invoices with different wire instructions and all sorts of stuff. And really, it's, even if they don't get any money, that's really embarrassing because they've now contacted everyone on your contact list, everybody that you've emailed. And they've also probably started phishing them to kind of, move on. And, usually it gets linked back to you because they're emailing looking like they're you. So you always know where the breach came from because it's usually from a specific spoofed user.
Now, so what are companies' weakest links?
Right now, I'd say email.
Email?
And I know I said this to you before, the least IT savvy, or I think I said dumbest user in the organization with the most access. And I mean, not literally dumb, but IT dumb. Some people just are a little bit disconnected with technology.
Sure.
And some of them still have high level access.
Yeah, without casting generalities, some people just aren't up on.
Right.
We have some older customers that are constantly, their Facebooks are constantly compromised.
Right.
From sharing stuff they shouldn't be sharing. And, and if you're a company out there, this is a great tip, review, your employees, who has access to what. Do they need that access? In some cases, file sharing and transparency in a company is great and all, but not everybody needs to see your financial records, right? Not everybody needs to see, company infrastructure. Just certain people in the organization need to see that. So that right there is an easy $0 cost fix.
Access levels are important.
Yeah.
So, but it's something that, needs to be managed realistically and really keep an eye on the users. And that's why there's now products coming out where you can automate phishing against your own users and stuff like that, because then you can...
You were telling me about it. You mystery shot. It's called mystery shot.
More or less, yeah. So
you're actually testing the vulnerability of people in a company.
Right.
That's really
and
brilliant.
then you can get more granular and target specific users on training. Maybe the whole organization doesn't need training.
Maybe it's just that one person that can't resist the...
Now I think it was GoDaddy, of course. Some tech company recently did this around Christmas time, and they sent it out as employee bonus email.
Wow.
And there was a lot of pushback on that one because there were no bonuses behind it. So I think that's a pretty terrible way to handle it. But yeah,
they found all the weak spots. They just pissed off their entire everybody's employees.
And they used something that got everyone's attention.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it works.
So
free money.
They probably could have done a little better on the topic. But it's something that big companies are doing, and it's not that expensive to have someone like us start doing it if it was something that...
So you go in, you audit a company, you come up with a solution, and then it's a constant monitoring thing, right?
Start looking at how you can be proactive.
Okay. All right, cool. You have to take kind of a holistic approach, right? If we're talking about risk management and protecting something that I would argue is more central to you operating your business than, the general liability you carry on your business for most of us. You have to take, a real encompassing approach. You start with a good IT company that are professional, know what they're doing, are always staying up to date on the latest software and the latest threats, news, and you have an active company, actively monitoring and protecting your systems. To back that up, though, you have a great cyber insurance policy, so that in the more than we used to say not likely, it's very likely. It's more likely that you're going to get a cyber problem than someone slipping and falling and suing you.
Right.
And pairing up with a good insurance company and agency that can protect those risks is really crucial, and will enable you to sleep at night. You mentioned that $7,000 breach was really small, actually.
That was the beginning of
Yeah.
all of this. Realistically, that was...
I think the average crypto lock is north of $500,000 now. And that $5,000 policy, that $2,000, insurance policy is going to look really, really insignificant if you're facing being locked out of your own systems for $500,000 worth of Bitcoin.
Well, and more importantly on that, of course, you have the insurance, but what does it look like after you have that breach? How much do premiums skyrocket after you have a breach like that?
You know what? Believe it or not, premiums, don't skyrocket. What's happening now is that the cyber insurance market's hardening up. Like I said, the rookies are being bled out of the system. They just can't cope. So the insurance companies that still cover it have whole teams in place, to deal specifically with, cyber liability issues.
Well, as these claims go higher and higher, I would assume that they're going to
cost-
have more requirements for the businesses on what their minimum is.
Yeah, the cost does go up, in general. I mean, your cost doesn't go up if you have one breach. Your cost might go up if you have a couple, but more importantly, the underwriters are basically getting into bed with the business. They're not just saying, hey, here's your policy, pay me $5,000, you're good to go.
Right.
They're like, no, I want to see everything. I want to see how you're doing it, and we want this, and this in place. And what they're doing is, a lot of people see that as a little bit intrusive. I mean, nobody likes to be told, they have work to do. But the insurance companies are, again, telling you from their experience, their losses, what they see as vulnerabilities that should be addressed.
Right.
They're protecting, with an insurance company, it's both your wallets. They want to protect their interests too. And that's the big change, I guess. But no, I mean, it's the individual cost doesn't go up. The whole idea of having insurance is to have protection. If you suffer a loss, I mean, it's going to matter down the road a little bit, but nothing like, the general market direction, in a situation like this with cyber insurance.
Well, I'm assuming the requirements are going to be increasing on businesses for
What
their minimums are.
They've already
Be
started,
watching that.
2020 was like the axe dropped.
It's just like if you go to look at a house and there's boards with rusty nails poking out of them everywhere, you probably can't insure them.
No,
Same
not
thing.
easily.
Same thing with businesses and
Insurance companies aren't
no good
stupid.
security
Yeah,
policy.
if you've got your 25-year-old nephew as your head of IT security on a 50-employee company, and he's looking at Norton antivirus or something, no, they're going to say no.
Right.
You need these minimum safety features in place in order to get that done. So
Makes sense.
it does. Makes perfect sense, right? There's going to be a button at the bottom of the screen. Again, this is just a high altitude thing. It'll go right to our website. You'll be able to message us and by extension Nate and team. And if you have any specific questions, just hit the button and we'll get right back to you, and we'll be happy to answer any questions. We can look at things. If you'd like us to actually check out what you got going on, we could certainly do that as well.
Absolutely.
Just click the button, and thank you for your time.